All right, y'all, I had my meeting. I am back. So I'm going to scroll back to the start of the nasals. I'm going to continue from here. And I'm going to tell you some weird, sexy stories on this one. The kids like it because Sandhi is racy. I was actually just talking to a colleague of mine in my meeting. And I was telling him how I started telling these kooky stories about Sandhi. And he's telling me that when he learned Tamil, and actually when he was watching some Tamil videos with his son, he noticed that there were all of these double entendres about sexuality as they were explaining the grammar of Tamil. So Tamil is an Indian language. It's non-Indo-European. And Sanskrit is an Indo-European language that is also found in India. So what's going on with these final sounds? Well, let's dig into it. All right. Now, remember I'm talking about mutation. What happens when you have a ta? You have some general consonant mutations. When ta is hanging out, ta's at a party. So we have krodat bhavati samoha. Samoha, samoha means confusion. Krodap is in the ablative. We'll learn that soon. It means anger. So from anger. Bhavati is a verb. It means arises. So krodat bhavati samoha. Krodad bhavati samoha. What? Well, what's going on here? In fact, we see that when you have an unvoiced ta and it comes into contact with a voiced consonant like ba, the ta turns into a da. The way I like to think of this is ta wanders into a party and it meets this ba, and ba will not give it the time of day because ba is voiced and ta is unvoiced. So in order to chat up ba, ta has to voice himself up. So for ta to hang out with ba, it's got to become voiced like ba is so they can have a conversation. Krodat bhavati samoha becomes krotad bhavati samoha, which if you say out loud is a lot easier to say than krodat bhavati samoha. Krodad bhavati, krodad bhavati. It's a lot easier to say. So we've got this sexy little ta again. Wanders on in. And asit is a sexy little ta, and ta wants to talk to da. But again, da will not shut up because da is voiced. And da has a whole lot of voice. So what is ta going to do? Ta is going to, oh, sorry, it's not. So ta meets is a vowel. All vowels are voiced. Will not shut up. So what does ta have to do in order to have a conversation with Well, is going to cause ta to become voiced. So it becomes asid asuraha. Oh, I spelled that totally wrong. I'm sorry. So it's asit asuraha. Asit means there was, and asuraha means a demon. So there was a demon, or there were demons, if it's in the plural. So asid asuraha. The da, or the ta, becomes a da. It becomes voiced, so it can hang out with the voiced consonant. Moving on down, we have samohat, smriti vibramaha. It's a great phrase. Samohat, just like samoha up here, but it's in the ablative. So it means due to confusion, all right? Smriti vibramaha. That's a compound. So vibramaha means an error. Smriti means memory. So an error in memory. We'll get to compounds in time enough. Together, it becomes samohat smriti vibramaha. So wait, there's no change? Well, what about that sexy little ta? Wanders on in. He's sashaying himself around. But what does he see? He sees a sa. And he's like, yeah, I like you, sa. Sa isn't talking to anybody. Ta isn't talking to anybody. They're both non-voiced. So you know what happens? They wander off into the corner and they just don't talk to one another. They make sweet love that night, but ta and sa come together unvoiced, wordlessly, no words exchanged. So there's no change here, or you would think that the ta has to associate with sa So sa is unvoiced, so it remains unvoiced. All right, break it. General consonant mutations with ta. Krotadbhavati samoaha or samoha becomes, or actually consists of, krotat bhavati samohaha. If we have asidasuraha, so there was a demon, or there were demons, I believe that's in the plural, asid asuraha. So there was a demon, asid asuraha. Samohat smriti vibramaha is samohat plus smriti vibramaha. Remember, you're going to encounter this when you're reading Sanskrit. You'll never encounter this in a text because it's unpleasant looking. But in Sanskrit, you will encounter this because that is unpleasant and this is pleasant. All right. Now, if you have a ta, okay? So imagine you've got your ta again. You've got your ta who's at a party. Now, ta before an initial consonant of the cha varga or the ta varga. So that's cha varga, this class, and ta varga. It mutates into the non-aspirate, so the one where you don't breathe out, of the same class as the initial, and then attaches to that initial. So if you have tut plus cha, now cha is an unvoiced initial in this cha class and ta class. In that case, tut connects to chikirshati, becomes tutshi, or tut. So the tut from there, right? Your tut, you've got your ta right here. Ta connects to an initial in the cha varga, so it turns into that cha varga version. It becomes cha. So tut chikirshati is tut chikirshati. Likewise, if you have tut and it meets ja, well, ja over here is in the talavya class, but is voiced. Here, the voicing doesn't matter. Anytime tut connects with any consonant of the cha class or the ta class, it becomes tajahati. Now, when you're speaking these words, and some of my students were concerned about this, when you have the double consonant, you just sort of like bridge it out a little bit. So instead of I wouldn't say tajahiti, I'd say tajahati. See, I make that ja a little longer. Tachikirshati, tachikirshati. I make the cha just a little bit longer, and that's how you pronounce the double sound. At least that's the way I do. All right, let's break this down. You're breaking it. You're wandering through your Sanskrit verse, and you see tachikirshati, and you're like, okay, what is this? I see the double cha. Double cha is suspect. Double cha is suspect. And then I think about it. I go, wait a minute. That's in that cha class or that ta class, the retroflex ta class or ta. So I know that this cha was originally a ta. So I read tachikirshati, but when I go to look up the words, I look up tut and chikirshati. When I see jahati and tajahati, those double jaws, I go, uh-oh, double consonant ja. That means there's probably a ta lurking around here somewhere. Now, here is a rule that is very, very common. Sorry, I just turned off my light because I hit it with my foot. I need my light. Okay. All right. So just memorize this example. You have a ta, and when it comes before a sha, it mutates. And what does it mutate into? The tut becomes a cha. However, this is one of these cases where the sha mutates too. So it's like the tut meets the sha and decides, hey, want to hang out? The tut says to the sha, I want to hang out, and turns into a sha. Now that it's a sha, that sha doesn't want a double sha. The sha's like, I really like you. I really like you. So before the sha, what I meant to say is the ta before the cha, or the tut before the sha becomes a cha. And that sha, in fact, also mutates, and it becomes a cha, an aspirated cha. When you put the cha and the cha together, it's like a long cha. So let's look at the example. Note that in your S class, so your sibilants, the T mutates into a C, And that C, that cha, forces sha to further mutate into a cha, and you end up with cha-cha. So when you see that cluster, you should be suspect and think that there might be a ta and a sha lurking in there. So let's look here. Tat, shrutva, kupitas, abhavat, shiva. So having heard, that's a gerund. Having heard that, kupitas means angry or anger, or here angered. Abhavat means past tense. Shiva, Shiva, the god Shiva. All right. So Tut wandering into the party, sees a Shah, goes, I like you, Shah. How about if I become Cha? And that Shah says, I liked you at Ta, but I really like you as Cha. And now I'm going to become Cha-Cha. I'm going to be an aspirated Cha. So Tut Shrutwa, Tat Shrutwa. No changes here between this is two words because that's a word final. Shrutwa. Kupitas, anger. Kupitas meets What happens with kupitas and Aha! That's a short What happens with the visarga, that sa, and a short The fucks right off, as I say, but it leaves its shadow behind, and that shadow is the awagraha. So this goes from kupitas abhavat to kupitabhavat, right here, kupitabhavat. However, we have ta meeting sha again. So what's ta gonna do? Ta's like, hey, sha, let's get together because I'm a cha. And ta turns into a cha. And the sha says, you are so cool as a cha. I'm going to become a cha too, but I'm going to be an aspirated cha because I'm that cool. So then from there, you get abhavat or abhavachiva. So we go from tat shrutva kupitas abhavat shivaha to tat shrutva kupitabhavachiva. Isn't that nice? Tat shrutva kupita. See, it gets me too. Tat shrutva kupitobhavachiva. Now remember that sa turns into an o before that short but it also, after it becomes an o, drops off the short So let's break it. Okay, taking a look again. Tatshrutva kupito bhavachiva is actually tat shrutva kupitas abhavat shiva. You got it. Now we're into the nasals. The nasals proper. So we have na, 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 and na. Do that in your mouth. So start with ka. So say ka na. That's how you say this na. If you need to say this na or nya, it's like the nya and nyana. So you go cha, cha. And how do I say na in the cha spot? Cha na. Na. Look, it gets your mouth right there. Na, na. Retroflex. Ta. So put like a little R in front of it or ta in front of it and say or na, 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 or na, or na. Ta. Where's my ta? Ta, ta is right here. Dental. Ta, 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 na, na, na. Tongue in the same place. Pa, pa, ba, ba, ma. All of those are in the labial, but the mas do not change. And I'll show you why in just a minute. So remember that all of our nasals, including ma for that matter, are voiced. All of these things are voiced. So we're always looking at something that's voiced. So we have this class from this side, this side, this side, and this side, and all the vowels are voiced. Remember voices, ka, no voice, ga, ga, there's the buzz. There you got it. And I had to have a linguist explain that to me. I never really understood it. I just memorized his voice and non-voice, and I never really understood what voicing meant. But sometimes having linguists are good things to have. So your final consonant before a nasal mutates into the nasal of the class of the final consonant. Let's look at this way. Final ka through ha, any consonant, plus na through ma, mutate, and the na through ma is changed. A little, well, the na through ma doesn't change. You have the mutant na through ma, and then the unchanged nahuma that follows after it. This will make sense when we look at it in the example. So we have etat ma kuru. Etat means this or that, more like that. Ma is a negative particle, Indo-European, negative particle. Kuru is the imperative of kri, the root kri, to create. So etat ma kuru, here the ta is encountering the ma, right? The ma is radioactive. It pulls the ta all the way over into being the nasal of its class. So it becomes a na, and then the ma stays the same. A tanma kuru. Again, ta meets this radioactive ma and gets completely mutated into a na. A tanma kuru. Vak maya. Vak or vach, that you may know, means like sort of the primordial sound or voice or speech. Then we have a word that's connected to called maya. Maya is an interesting word. It means consisting of. This is not maya as illusions, mayaha, which means consisting of. So vak plus maya means it consists of speech. So vak maya, our ka, encounters the radioactive ma. The radiation of the ma mutates the ka over into the nasal section of na, ka, ka, na. So when we say it, it's vanmaya, vakmaya, the ka radiate due to the radiation of the ma mutates into na, vanmaya. You got it. Let's break it down one more time in reverse. This is what you're going to be reading in Sanskrit. Etan makuru is actually etat makuru. When you look up the words, they'll be like this. If you look up the word etanma, you're not going to find anything. Vanmaya is vak and maya. If you look up vanmaya, it might be in there. That compound might be in a dictionary. But van is vak because our ka encountered the ma and the radiation caused ka to become a na. Vanmaya. All right. Final ma. This is a great one. It has no exceptions. When so a ma without the syllable, so it has the virama on it without a vowel. So just at the end of any word or word final where it's not going to connect to anything else or it's at the end of a sentence, this without, or the ma with a virama with no syllable becomes anuswara, tum. So if we look here, we'll see ramas plus vanam plus gachati. Rama, vanam, gachati. Rama is a name, the Lord Rama. Oh, sorry, that should have a long A there. So Rama. Vanam means forest. And gachati. Gachati means he goes. So Ramas vanam gachati becomes Ramo vanam gachati. So the vanam gets the anuswara. And sometimes some people like really nasalize this. So they just do like vanan, or some people say vanam. Some people say vanan. So you can just say vanam. You go however you want. But we have another Sandhi rule here. We have a review. Remember, we have ramas. Ramas is encountering a va. Va is voiced. So your ramas encountering a voiced initial turns to O. So Ramo vanam gachati. See, in each example, you're learning and practicing things you learned before. All right, so we go down here. Rishinam pustakam patati. Great phrase. Rishinam, that's genitive plural, of the rishis, of the seers. Pustakam, a book I love, or a word I love, which means book. Patati, patati means to read. So pustakam, patati, he reads. So he reads the book of the sages, or he reads the sages' books. Here, Rishinam keeps a long A, and it turns into anuswara. Pustakam keeps it short and adds an anuswara. So you go and you have Rishinam pustakam patati. No exceptions. When a little ma without a vowel on it is at the end of a word, all it does is becomes an anuswara. That is one to remember forever. So let's break this. Ramo vanam gachati is in fact ramas vanam gachati. Our two Sandhi rules are that the ha, the s, without a syllable, connecting to a voiced initial consonant, here va, becomes o, ramo vanam. The vanam becomes the anuswara, vanam gachati, ramo vanam gachati. Everything you need to know in Sanskrit is Rama goes to the forest. Ramo vanam gachati. Reshinam pustakam patati. Here we have one rule applied twice, where the ending ma without a vowel becomes an anuswara. So Rishinam pustakam patati is Rishinam pustakam patati. You got it. Now, when na is at the end of a word and is encountering other words, a bunch of stuff happens. So now we're just looking at na without a vowel. So just We're going to see the continuing dirty little adventures of this slutty little na. My students after class, I told them, said, na's just really, na's just hot to try. All right, we'll see my jokes coming up here. All right, so when you have a n with no syllable after it, and it connects to a UV, by which I mean unvoiced or ultraviolet, an unvoiced initial of the cha varga, the ta varga, or the ta, or the cha varga, the ta varga, or the ta varga. So cha cha, ta ta, and ta ta. When na encounters these these 6 letters here, it actually changes. And what does it do? Well, the first thing it does is it becomes an anuswara. We've seen this before, so it nasalizes. However, it does something else. That anuswara comes up, and then you'll see that before that cha, ta, or ta, or ta, 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 it's inserted a sibilant. And then the initial remains the same, the cha. So, kasmin, chit, nagare, avasat, raja. Kasmin and chit. This is a kind of a compound word. So this kasmin means where, a place, like where. But if I add chit to it, it makes it indefinite. So it becomes like somewhere or someplace. Okay. Nagare, like Devanagari, Nagari, the city of the gods. Nagare means a city. Nagare, the a at the end of it means it's locative. It's in a place. Avasat, past tense, from vas, to live. And finally, Raja, and this is in the nominative, a king, Raja. So, Kasmin chit nagare avasat becomes Kasminchi nagare vasad Raja. Let's break this down. Our sexy little Kasmin walks into the party, and he wanders himself in, and he's just so excited because he sees the person he's wanted to see forever, Mr. Chit over there. He's all into himself, but he goes over to Chit, and Chit and the cha says, hey, I don't like what you're doing here. I don't like this. I don't like this version of you. Wants nothing to do with this na. So there's no vowel, but I'll just say na anyway. Na wanders into the bathroom, crimps up, puts a little bass in his voice, gets on out. I was like, all right, I'm going to beat. And he anuswaras. He becomes this little anuswara. But here's the thing. Chit is like, I don't know. Now you're an anuswara? I don't care for this. I'm going to get Shah over here, who's going to hang out between us and be like my bumper, so I don't have to talk to you directly. I got a third person involved. So that's one way to think of it. So Kasmin becomes Kasmin, anuswara, and then the chit stays the same, the cha stays the same, but it has inserted a sha. If you think of it this way, cha is highly radioactive. Na encounters cha, and the mutation is profound, turning it into an anuswara. However, he's mutated into an anuswara, but he like grew a third arm out the top. That's the sha. It's like a huge mutation that gets this third arm growing out of the top of his head. So Kasmin Chit. Now, we have Kasmin Chit, but we have further Sandhi. Remember what happens when a ta, right here, encounters a na. What happens when a ta encounters a na? Well, in fact, the ta has this incredible radiation, right, amongst the na, and it shifts to the nasal of that same class, which is also na. So here we see chit becomes chin, and the nas connect, chin nagare. Now, we have avasat, but re. Remember that O and A at the end of a word, when it encounters a short the short fucks right off, but it leaves its shadow behind as an awagraha that is not pronounced, but is written. So we've got this awagraha, then we're at avasat, but that's a ta, and that ta is right here, and it's encountering a ra. Now, ra is voiced, ta is unvoiced. So ta becomes voiced, so it can hang out with ra. As it's unvoiced, it doesn't have anything to say. That has to become voiced and start talking, so it can actually talk to voiced ra. And that's why you have vasat rajaha. So, putting it all together, there's 4 sandhis. Kasmin chit nagare avasat raja becomes kasmin chinagare vasadraja. So kasmin chinagare vasadraja. It's lovely. It's nice. Let's break it down again. All right, follow it in the chart. No, so I'm encountering this. This is what I'm reading in Sanskrit. I'm reading in the text. I go kasmin chit nagare vasadraja. So I start and I go kasmin. There's a cha there. And when there's a cha and there's a sha around it, there's probably a shift here. I can see the remnants of the mutation. So what I do is I look and I go, okay, so that sha got in there. Oh, it's because the anuswara ma and the cha don't like each other. So yeah, they've got that third person who's a bumper at the party, so they can have an okay 3-person conversation instead of 2. All right, so that's kasmin, and I take out the sha, so that's cha, and I got chit nagare. Double N. Double N is kind of always suspect. So I look and I go, chit nagare, double na. Oh, you know what that is? That is an unvoiced ta that became the voiced appropriate nasal for na. So it's chin nagare. Nagare vasat. Oh, there's the shadow of an I know that that's there. So if I'm looking up avasat, not just vasat. And then that da and ra, well, da is voiced, ra is voiced. Well, that could be that, in fact, the da was originally unvoiced, and it was a ta. So, kasmin chinagare avasadraja, look at all that sandhi, and one example is kasman chit nagare avasadraja. All right, now, when you have the final na, or again, we're at final na, and it encounters an unvoiced version of the cha, ta, and ta varga. So unvoiced, here we are again. Anything unvoiced here, when that happens, it becomes an anuswara and has a sibilant added, just like before. This is our same rule, and then the initial remains the same. So in our example, we have murkan tyajati panditaha. Panditaha means a wise person, a pandit. Tyajati means to abandon, to leave. So someone who's a tyagi is someone who has abandoned life and become a renunciate. And murkan. Murkan is a great word. Murka means fools, and it's in the accusative plural. So it is fools. So a wise person leaves or abandons fools. Goldman says a wise person, a pandita, leaves fools alone. But, I mean, you could have that. That could be a thing. But murkan tyajati panditaha becomes murkan tyajati panditaha. Well, what's up with that sibilant there? When we look, we have a final na, right? And it encounters an unvoiced ta of the cha, ta, ta varga right here. In this way, it gets a sa attached. Why a sa? Because that's in the same class. So when final na encounters ta, it nasalizes into an anuswara, and then it inserts a sibilant between the anuswara and the ta. So again, it's like the na walks into a party. sees ta. It's like, yes, yes, yes. I've been waiting to see ta all day long. Very excited. But ta's like, I want nothing to do with you. So na turns into an anuswara. Now, the problem is the ta still doesn't like the anuswara. So it goes over and it gets its buddy sha, and it inserts the appropriate sibilant, which would be sa, to be kind of a blocker, to be a bumper in the conversation. All right, let's break it down. Murkan tyajati pandita is Murkan tyajati panditaha. Remember, we're looking at that na, and it encounters an unvoiced ta, so it becomes anuswara and has the organic, similar, homoorganic sound, the sa, inserted as well. All right, the final na of a voiced version of just the cha and just the ta class. Don't worry about the dental ta right now. Just leave it alone. So here we have Dhanavan Jayati Indraha. Indra is the god of the Rig Veda, the hero god of the Vedas. He's a grand warrior. And Jayati, from the Sanskrit root ji, means to be victorious, to conquer. Dhanavan is in the plural accusative, so the object of the verb, and it's demons, the Danavas. You have the Asuras and the Danavas. The Danavas are the bad guys. So Indra slays the Danavas. Dhanavan, demons. Jayati, slays or conquers. Not slays, conquers. Indraha, in the nominative singular, the hero god Indra. How does this work with our Sandhi? Dhanavan, ooh, look at that. It turns into this na. That's interesting. So Dhanavan Jayati Indraha. Why Indraha? Why is it long there? Remember, short I plus short I equals long I. So we figured that out. We're good. But what is going on with Dhanavan Jayati? Well, na sashays right into that party, all excited, and sees a ja. Ja right here is voiced. Ja looks at na and says, you know what? You just mellow out a little bit. So na takes a deep breath and hikes her skirt up and walks on over to Ja in a different way of being, having become a na. Why a na? Because, see, that's the same nasal. So na has shifted from down here to na to be more appealing to Ja. It all comes together. Dhanavan Jayati Indra, Dhanavan Jayati Indra. You got it. Let's break it down. Dhanavan Jayati Indra, you're reading along, you go, okay, that's a double, that's long I suspect. It's probably Indra, it's Indra. All right, I know that one. So that makes it Jayati, solid. All right, but what's this Dhanavan Jayati going? Okay, well, I know that Ja and Na are in the same class. So when they're in the same class together, oh, that's suspect. That means probably that Na was something else that's easier, I don't know, to spell, like Dhanavan. So you realize that the Na was originally a Na. Dhanavan Jayati Indra is Dhanavan Jayati Indra. Okay. Final Na before a Sha. This does all sorts of cool stuff. I love this one. This one just makes me happy. I enjoy it. So, in a final na before a sha, so we're not going to worry too much about voicing right here. Final na before a sha has a couple of changes. First, the na sees the sha. Na says sha, you are pretty special. But you know what? I think you would like me even more if I was a na. Now, look, sha's right here. So our na has gone from here up to nya. So sha really appealed to na. So na turned herself or himself into nya. Now, sha likes the nya so much, it goes, well, crap. You know what I want to be? I want to be a cha. I want to be just like you over here on this side of the thing. So it becomes the unvoiced cha. So madhuran, chabdan, it's happening twice, shrinoti. Now, what does this mean? Madhuran means sweet. It also can mean honey. So madhu means honey. Madhura means sweet. So it's an adjective. Shabdan means a word. In fact, a dictionary is called a shabda kosha. So a collection of words, shabda kosh in Hindi, shabd kosh. So shrinoti is in the present. It means to hear, from which we get shru, the Sanskrit root shru, which is, shru, which is to hear. So the rishis heard, the rishis saw the sounds of the universe of the Vedas. Let's not worry about that too much right now. Okay, so in our Sandhi, madhuran meets sha. Na meets sha and says, I want to be in the cha class. Sha says, I'm tired of being a sibilant. I want to become an unvoiced cha. So the rule is simple. Anytime na meets sha, it becomes na, and the sha becomes cha. So in this one, the radiation affects everybody around. So madhuran shabdan shrinoti becomes madhuran shabdan shrinoti. Lovely. Break it down. Madhuran plus shabdan plus shrinoti is madhuran shabdan shrinoti. I mixed that one up. So if you're looking on there, look at right here. Madhuran shabdan shrinoti. Okay, I got a na and I got a cha. These are suspect when I see them. Nas and chas. So I know that na's a nasal. So that I'm going to imagine is just a na. Now I know that a na only hangs out with sa. Na does not hang out with sha. So that's when I go, oh, I bet it was a sha that turned into a cha. Madhuran shabdan shrinoti. All right. This is a great one. Oh, great. It sounds great. Everything's great. All right. Uttaman, Lokan, Labate, Dharma, Gnaha. There's so much going on in this. It's really cool. So here you got a great thing. No chart, because you don't have to worry about voicing here at all. A final na, and here we're having a long A with a na, but any final na, when it encounters a la, it becomes an anuswara, and then the la doubles. So going back to our party, na sachets on in. I'm here to meet la. Na meets la, and la's like, I'd like it if you'd mellow out a bit. So na turns itself around, spruces itself up, and becomes an anuswara. Now, la likes that anuswara so much, it says, I like this, I'm going to be even more myself, and doubles itself. So uttaman becomes uttaman lokan. Lokan connects to the la again. So the na becomes anuswara and the la doubles. So uttaman lokan labate dharmagna. Now, what do these words mean? Dharmagna. Gna is an upapada. It's a shortened version of the word gnanin, or knower. So if I say someone is yoga gna, it'll be someone who knows yoga. This one is dharmagna, a dharma knower, a righteous person. Uttaman is an adjective. It means the highest. It's in the accusative plural. Lokan as well is in the accusative plural. And it means a world. Labate, from the Sanskrit root lab, means to attain. Put it all together, and we have a dharma knower, anyone who knows dharma, attains toward, not strives, but attains toward, attains in a direction, or attains a thing. Maybe it attains the uttaman lokan, the highest world. The dharma knower attains toward the highest world. Uttaman lokan labate dharmagnaha. Isn't that fun? Uttaman lokan labate dharmagna. That just makes me happy. Now, there's a little twist here that I wanted to point out. Sometimes, and you see this in the om, you see the bindu in the om has this little like little circle or this little half circle under it. That's called a Chandra Bindu. Bindu means a drop or a dot. Chandra means a moon. Here, a crescent moon. So here, sometimes you'll see that and especially when it's in this particular environment, it gets the Chandra Bindu. So Uttaman lo lo labate dharma jnana. And those are just pronounced like a normal anuswar. Break it. Uttaman lokan labate dharma jnana. Uttaman na meets la, and na becomes an anuswara and la doubles. Uttaman lokan plus la. Na and lokan becomes anuswara and la doubles. Labate is labate, and it doesn't do anything, and it stands on its own when dharmagna comes afterward. Boom. All right, here's another great one. This one's pretty cool. Your na, na, your na, the retroflex na, and your na, dental, they double after any short vowel and before any initial vowel. You don't need a chart. This is just a rule to remember. So if I write it out here, na, mutates to a double na when it encounters any vowel, through ow. So here we have stuvan agachati. Stuvan means, it's a participle, so it means like while praising. While praising, from stu, just sing outward. I like singing as well. Agachati. Agachati means, it's from the root gum, becomes gachati, which means to go. But if you put an in front of it, it means to come. So long agachati means to come instead of to go. If it's awagachati, it means to understand, and that will trip you up later. But you hear it now, you'll know it later. We'll point it out when we get to it. We're all getting there. It's all happening. So our na encounters any vowel. We know that na, when it encounters any vowel after, it's a short vowel, so it's not to van, so it's a short vowel and a na, one of these nas, it hits another vowel, so it doubles. So stuvan nagajati. Now, remember when I said when you have a double letter, you just kind of like string it out a little bit longer. So stuvan nagachati. Now, hasan, from the Sanskrit root has, to laugh. It's a great one. That's also a participle. Look, it's the same as stuvan. This is the great thing about Goldman. He's, in all of these examples, he's actually foreshadowing the things you're going to learn in all the further chapters. So in a way, what I'm doing by going through these in detail, explaining some of these nuances and explaining the vocabulary and whatnot, is it's warming you up for when you're going to learn these things properly. So you've already seen it once. When you learn the grammar for how to form some of these verbs and nouns, you'll have already had a little bit of experience in this Sandhi chapter. So in many ways, the Sandhi chapter warms you up for everything that will come following. And I haven't seen another Sanskrit grammar that does that. And I think it's really cool. As much as I kind of bitch and whine about how Goldman writes sometimes, he wrote this grammar, and he wrote it using linguistic terminology that was not based exclusively on Greek and Latin, which was how all the previous grammars had been written beforehand. So it used to be, if you wanted to learn Sanskrit, you had to learn Greek. My advisor told me that when he was first studying Sanskrit in France, when he was doing his PhD, it was required that he take Greek at the same time. So it used to be that if you wanted to learn Sanskrit, you would have to go to like a classics department and learn Greek. And then while you were learning Greek, you could learn Sanskrit. I have a friend in a Hindi class one time who was a very good Greek scholar who was learning Hindi in particular. Because as sort of like a modern language. And she had a very different take on a lot of linguistics because she came out of that world of Greek classical philology. All right. Stuvan agachati becomes stuvan nagachati. Hasan plus eva. Hasan means laughing. Eva means as if. It's a little particle. It means as if. So Hasan eva, as though laughing. Now, I put my boy Atlas on the scene the other day when I did this, and I said, break this down and translate it. And I said, this is going to be the first Sanskrit sentence you are going to translate. And you can do this. And I helped him and he got there. Stuvan agachati hasaniva. So that's stuvan, while singing. Agachati, he comes. Hasan, laughing. Eva, as if. So in a way, if you look at this, you can see a full sentence, a full thought. He comes forward singing as if he were laughing. See, it's a sentence. Stuva nagachati hasan Eva. All right, now, if you have a ha after any aspirated consonant of a class preceding the final, then this is what Goldman says it's not helpful. Then it does this weird thing. Now, I remember this as the Buddha rule. Not that it's about the Buddha, but if you remember but plus ha is Buddha, you'll remember the rule. Let's look at the rule in particular. An initial ha, see here, after a non-voiced final consonant, ta and ka, both unvoiced final consonants, mutates. The ha mutates to the voiced version of that consonant class. So our ha encounters ta and mutates radically. Mutates so radically that it becomes a part of that class, and it goes from unvoiced to voiced. And it also goes from unaspirated here, to aspirated. So then what happens? So you have etat plus harati. Ta and ha. Ha becomes ta, aspirated. But then that ta sees the ta, the ta sees that duh, that aspirated duh, and says, oh shit, I gotta get voiced too. So ta walks into a party, as ta does. And ta's like, I'm gonna get me a huh. So he goes over and says, I want to meet you, Mr. Huh. And Huh says, oh, jeez and rice, what am I gonna do with you? And Huh just freaks out, right? And like runs out of the room. Huh's like, I'm out of here. Runs out of the room, puts on a new set of clothes, and is a duh. Oh, sorry, I've been talking all day. Let's get through this. We're right at the end. All right. So Ta met Ha. Ha ran out of the party, put on a new change of clothes, becomes a duh. But duh has an interesting problem. When duh returns to the party, it was once Ha, it runs into Ta again. And what happens is Ta looks different when duh is kind of in a different mindset, and Ta kind of digs duh. And he looks at, and duh really digs Ta. So duh looks up at Ta, and Ta goes, ooh, I want to talk to you, so I'm going to be voiced. So Ta becomes voiced, and then duh and Ta come together to become duh. So etat, this, harati, steals, carries. Chauraha means thief. The thief steals or carries away this. Etatharati chauraha becomes etadharati. That's hard for me to say. Etadharati chauraha. The same thing happens with vak. Vak encounters an initial ha. Ha is a consonant. Ha morphs and changes. Here we see ha morphs and changes into ga. And then after ga has mutated, ha resonates and mutates too and becomes a short ga. So it becomes voiced. So everything is voiced. Hence, vakhi devta, voice, vak, he indeed, devta. You'll notice I don't say devata. That's just, it's a way you pronounce it. You just say devta. You don't say devata. There's not a rule about it. It's just usage. So is indeed a god. Vakhi devta becomes vagdhi devta. Remember, ka consonant meets ha. Ka meets ha. Ha decides to become ga, an aspirated voiced version of this class. Once that's become a ga, then the ka turns into a voiced unaspirated, and they make sweet love together. Vagti devta means voice indeed is a god or is divine. I think it's more, devta is more like a god. All right, breaking it down. This is sometimes remembered, and a friend of mine told me this in a class it was a Vedic Sanskrit class. He said, oh yeah, that's the Buddha. That's the Buddha rule, because none of us got it. And I thought, oh, it's the Buddha rule. But I always remember it's the Buddha rule. But then I realized you can memorize it as Batha Buddha, which is easy and kind of fun to say. Now, it doesn't mean anything in Sanskrit, but you'll remember the rule. Batha Buddha, Batha Buddha, Batha Buddha, Batha Buddha. So this is where you remember that when you have an unvoiced consonant, well, it's any consonant, encounters the ha, then the ha becomes the becomes the aspirated version, the aspirated voiced version of that class. So ta would be da, and then the ta mutates also to a da. They make sweet love, and they're buddha. So etad harati chauraha is etat harati chauraha. Vagti devta is vakhi devta. What do you need to remember here? When you're reading Sanskrit in the wild, if you see a ga, if you see a gi or a ta, when you see this pair of voiced aspirate and unaspirate, there's probably a ha lurking somewhere nearby. All right. Internal Sandhi. This, I'm just going to give you some quick examples because Goldman is really confusing on this, and it's not that big of a deal. You just need to understand these shifts I'm going to make because it'll help you understand why different words are spelled differently. So this is internal Sandhi. So, and here, I'm not even going to explain it because it's too weird and hard to understand. So if you have the word siddhati, which is a verb, kind of like to settle down, but you add a prefix to it, v, then the s sound becomes a sh sound. Why do you need to remember this? For spelling. So when you see vishadhi, you should have in your head, okay, that's actually a sa that is altered due to the v. Kanyasu means, it's a locative form, in the plural means among the fancy ladies. Now, so you have kanyasu, but here, deveshu, because of that a sound, that's the same thing. It should be devesu, but devesu is unpleasant. It becomes shu. Dasyati, I will, or he will give, but bhavishyati, he will be. It both has the sa, but because of these e sounds and the v sounds, the sa becomes a retroflex. You only need to remember this because of spelling. And it'll become really intuitive to you. You'll just see that sha and be like, okay, I know that that's a sa, that's a sibilant. So we see a similar movement with na. Na inside of certain words, usually when they have a ra involved, will become a retroflex. So ram, or Rama. So it's Rama, which means the god Rama or the guy Rama. And then the verbal ending or the noun ending is ena, which is instrumental. So Ramena means by Rama. It's really Ram plus ena, but the na turns into a retroflex because that ra is right there. Brahman plus a, also instrumental. Here, Brahman, but when, and that stands on its own, Brahman, the absolute. But if I'm saying by virtue of the absolute or by the absolute, and I have that on there, then the ra causes this not at the end to retroflex. All right, so really just remember na and sa and sha, they're kind of the same in many cases. Just keep that in your head. We'll learn about all of these endings in chapter 4. All right, it's over. This was your first trip through. Your first trip through. I'm tired. This is your first trip through Sandhi. And you're going to come back to these rules over time, and you're going to practice them. Every time you're reading Sanskrit, you're going to be doing all of these shifts. So they seem really artificial now, but they will become completely natural. It took me years to get this because I'm dyslexic. And honestly, I learned it a lot more by doing this presentation a couple of times and really thinking through the PowerPoint. So now you're exposed and you've seen the vast majority of Sandhis. There's only a few other like little sniggling ones around. So now you're not going to see anything new. You've been exposed to all of it. At this point, you can really read Sanskrit. You can parse all the yoga poses because you know all the Sandhi rules. So every yoga pose, but they're usually just long A and short A, or long A and short A, or short A and long A come together to be long A. But now you know it. Now that we're done learning the script and learning about these shifts in sounds and phonology, we're ready to really learn this language as a language. And so in our next chapter, we're going to start being able to read Sanskrit and read full sentences. But we already did that a little bit. We already read a bunch of sentences today, but now we're going to understand how those words are related and how all the grammar that I just said out loud to you, and you're like, instrumental, what are you talking about? You'll know what all that means, and you'll be able to make verbs and make sentences. You are on your way. You have encountered Sandhi to come together, the beautiful combination, the sonorous combination, the copulative combination, if you will, and you will be a better person for it. So thank you for watching the video. And if you knew Sandhi before, I hope you have a better grasp on it now. And if this is your first time learning Sandhi, bravo, shabash. You're going to get good at this. You're going to get good at this through practice. And in time, every time you read Sanskrit, you're going to begin doing these just absolutely naturally, which is pretty cool. All right. Thank you. It's been my pleasure. I'll see you next time.